Breaking news, scary moments at Stevenson University as students are ordered to shelter in place. We are live from campus with a look at what triggered the emergency. An outburst from the audience as the city council confirms Richard Worley is Baltimore's new top cop. What has some outraged by the decision? Plus, why one council member says Worley contradicted himself when it comes to the murder of a tech CEO. More dismal math scores in Baltimore City schools. Fox 45 News Project Baltimore demands answers from city and state leadership.
Do you find those scores acceptable, and who do you hold accountable?
A debate over term limits in Harford County.
To be stagnant in one position on the county for 3 terms, I just think it's disingenuous.
The war of words between Harford County council members. How a decision on term limits could impact your wallet.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We are following breaking news out of Baltimore County. Police are investigating an assault near Stevenson University in Owings Mills. It prompted a shelter in place for students and staff earlier tonight. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker live at Stevenson University right now. Maxine, what are you learning?
Well, that shelter in place has since been lifted here on campus in Owings Mills, but understandably so, it left a lot of students on edge and scared for their safety tonight. Now, Baltimore County Police say around 6 o'clock, they responded here to the 100 block of Campus Circle for a reported assault with injury. That's what prompted that shelter in place. Stevenson University saying police were pursuing
about your no vote? Porter leaves, but Council President Mosby gives an explanation on why perhaps other council members gave an explanation before giving their yes vote.
I think it was a tough vote for a lot of people.
It wasn't explaining away the yes vote?
No, not explaining away, but I think really communicating. I mean, you know, a lot of times with these police things, and we've seen it over the course of the past a couple of years, that they become very divisive. So, you know, just kind of giving an ambiguous yes or no is not always kind of the right approach. But
Well, Worley will have a 3-year contract earning about $285,000 a year. The Board of Estimates is set to approve that contract at its meeting this Wednesday. Reporting tonight, Keith Daniels. Now back to you.
And Keith, you also spoke with Councilman Eric Costello about a conversation he had with Worley earlier today. Can you tell us some more about that?
Well, that's right, Mary. We did talk to Councilman Costello. He said that he had a meeting with Worley before the confirmation vote. He said he was concerned about those 2 recent crimes, that one involving the murder of the tech CEO and the rape of a Baltimore City woman and who was also set on fire. Worley, or rather Costello, said he had concerns about those crimes, including critical information connected to the suspect arrested in both of those cases. Jason Billingsley, he called Worley over to City Hall. Worley came over, and then, according to Costello, Worley admitted leaving out, or not releasing rather, critical information in this case.
I think that the commissioner's probably done his due diligence and come to the same conclusion that myself and other elected officials and community leaders and members have come to, that that photo and that name should have been released immediately following the incident on the 800 block of Edmondson Avenue. I'm glad that he's come to that conclusion. I'm glad that he is investigating it, and I will hold him to his commitment that he made to me today that appropriate personnel action will be taken once he sees the results of that investigation.
Well, Costello, like 13 other people, still voting yes to confirm him as the police commissioner. Now, we did reach out to the police department for a statement or comment on this issue, but so far tonight, we have not heard back. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. As you mentioned, it seems what Commissioner Worley told Councilman Costello, that he made a mistake in not releasing Billingsley's picture, contradicts what he said just 1 week ago. Listen.
Because there was 2 victims from Edmondson Avenue that were still out. One was in the hospital, one was at their location. We had to get them protection if we were going to put that information out.
Well, Fox 45 News spoke to a law enforcement expert who says Worley's comments about protecting victims were an excuse. He says all signs should have pointed to police releasing Billingsley's information earlier.
You have a situation where a person has attempted murder of 2 people in an apartment. He has set the building on fire. That is a clear indication that this person is a threat to the community.
Well, today, a Baltimore City judge denied bond for Jewel Crowder. He is the man accused of killing off-duty Howard County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Demby on Thursday night in Federal Hill. The murders of Demby and tech CEO Pavel Lapierre, just a few incidents casting a shadow on how Mayor Brandon Scott is handling Baltimore's crime crisis. The mayor is pointing to a reduction in gun violence from this time last year, but some aren't satisfied with his messaging. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor today.
Mayor Brandon Scott is quick to point to the reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings compared to this time last year, but we also have some high-profile homicides and various city agencies within City Hall operating without a permanent director, and a political expert warns the road to re-election for the mayor could be bumpy.
We're about showing our residents that they can depend on city government.
Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott leading the city back in the national spotlight, this time for the wrong reasons. Baltimore City Tech CEO Pavel Lapierre killed in her apartment building. Ryan Demby, an off-duty Howard County Sheriff's Deputy, gunned down outside of a bar in popular Federal Hill. Young people continuing to drive off with stolen vehicles. As of September 23rd, nearly 8,000 stolen cars this year alone in the city. That's a 223% increase from this time last year. Beyond public safety, the safety of drinking water under the microscope after a microparasite found in Druid Hill Park Reservoir. During a fall cleanup blitz announcement,
A variety of city services in a span of 90 days.
we questioned the mayor about the several problems facing his administration. Is this the Baltimore that voters should expect to see if you do win re-election?
Well, I think, Mackenzie, what I'll say again is that we're always putting forth the best team. We're going to continue to put forth the best team possible, but we know that some people are going to leave and take jobs. We're going to continue to fill those positions as quickly as possible, but also maintaining our ability to be a high-functioning city government.
Suspects already arrested and charged in the Demby and Lapierre cases. Meanwhile, hundreds of others remain open. What do you say to the other family members who are still waiting for closure in their cases when we saw quick action in two high-profile cases?
I think that I'll say this again, Mackenzie. When anybody says that, our homicide detectives work hard every single solitary case that they get. We're going to continue to do that.
While the mayor is helping install a speed hump in communities, political analyst John Dede argues Scott should be worried about high-profile homicides slowing down his re-election efforts.
It's a big speed bump because they happen in communities where this type of stuff doesn't happen.
Interim directors leading several agencies within the administration, the Department of Public Works, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, which is tasked with overseeing the flagship gun violence prevention program, Safe Streets, implementing the group violence reduction strategy, and maintaining the cornerstone of Mayor Scott's holistic crime plan.
It leaves people wondering, where's the organization involved in city government?
Dede argues while people voted for then City Council President Brandon Scott in 2020, they were looking for a new chapter in Charm City's history.
They voted for youth and optimism. And it was really a vote for change.
But so far, he argues that change hasn't fully been realized.
Mayor Costello, Councilman.
During Monzi's budget hearing in June,
in a harbor,
City Administrator Faith Leach assured the City Council a permanent leader of Monzi would be named within 60 days. Almost 120 days later, Interim Director Stephanie Mavronis is still in place.
We are still searching. We have some folks, and we're going to continue to bring in the best and the brightest. Some of the folks that we considered took other jobs. One is a very, very high-profile job in the world of violence reduction, and in fact, you can't get any higher.
Is Stephanie part of that search? I just want to know if Stephanie is part of the search.
Anybody that applies is a part of the search.
Has she applied?
I can't. Now I can't tell you that. That's a personnel issue, Mackenzie. Thank you.
The mayor keeping tight-lipped about the search for an agency he says is critical in the city's effort to saving lives. While bullets continue to fly, like here in Brooklyn along Patapsco Avenue Sunday night, feet from a safe street zone, crime scene tape marks off more blocks where the bloodshed continues to spill. And Baltimore remains a city with more than 300 homicides for the last 8 years in a row. Right now, former Mayor Sheila Dixon is running against Mayor Brandon Scott in the Democratic primary. Former independent candidate Bob Wallace has an exploratory committee, but so far hasn't made any permanent announcements. The primary election is set for May 2024. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Mayor Scott deserves a second term? So far, 75% of people who voted say no. You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Well, Governor Wes Moore says Pavel LaPere was failed, claiming he's going to work with lawmakers to address concerns about repeat violent offenders. Mackenzie Frost pressed him about that plan.
There was a bill introduced during last session and several years prior that would have targeted violent repeat offenders, and it never moved. Will that change during next session?
What other questions we're demanding answers to coming up at 10:30. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, the debate over term limits back on the table in Harford County, the heated war of words between some council members tonight. Plus, the Harford County executive looking to use taxpayer money to pay his team's legal bills. We're demanding accountability for your tax dollars.
Another nice warm day on the way for Tuesday. Temperatures well up into the 80s, should only be in the 70s. I'm going to let you know we're going to have a reality check. Highs may not even make it out of the 60s. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Troubling test scores in some Baltimore City public schools have been grabbing national headlines. Project Baltimore demanding answers from some of the people who could make a difference. Baltimore City Schools has a $1.7 billion budget. That is one of the highest in the nation among large school systems. But a recent Project Baltimore investigation found math scores across the school system are alarmingly low. And this is not a new problem. The city school system has been struggling for years. So who will take action to fix it? Project Baltimore's Chris Papps questions the key players who could.
The latest round of state test results raises alarm in Baltimore City.
Stunning findings by our Project Baltimore team.
A Project Baltimore investigation so stunning it made national headlines. At 13 Baltimore City high schools, 0 students who took the state tests last spring scored proficient in math. Nearly 75% of the students at these schools scored in the lowest of 4 levels, meaning they weren't even close to proficient. And that's not all. Even at the top 5 performing high schools, where a combined 809 students took the state math test, just 11% scored proficient. The results have sparked outrage, but who has the power to make change? These are the key players who could take action. The government entities that either fund or oversee city schools. First, the Baltimore City School Board.
I'll wait you on the camera inside the board. Or one side.
But when Project Baltimore tried to get answers for parents and students in these schools, the city school board refused to talk.
Who do you want to talk to? Anyone who would talk to me at this point.
After our cameras were blocked from recording outside the monthly school board meeting, we were told no one from Baltimore City Schools would speak with us. If city school leaders won't tell us how they plan to improve student outcomes, who will? Project Baltimore went to lawmakers in Annapolis. The school system has a $1.7 billion budget. Most of that, about 70%, comes from the state.
We obviously are not doing enough.
Senate President Bill Ferguson represents Baltimore City. 2 of those 13 high schools with poor math scores are in his district: New Era Academy and Patterson High School. Project Baltimore last week sent Ferguson an email asking what he would tell parents at these 2 schools and what urgent steps he's taking to improve student outcomes. We did not hear back. But 2 weeks ago, when we asked Ferguson who should be held accountable, he stood by the city school CEO, Dr. Sonia Santelises.
One singular person is never the solution or the single problem. Obviously, we have to have unbelievable urgency. It's not acceptable where we are, but that doesn't mean that the entire system is broken.
Instead of a change in leadership, state lawmakers have focused on funding to fix the school system. Over the next 8 years, Maryland will invest $30 billion additional tax dollars into public education as part of the blueprint for Maryland's future, also known as the Kirwan Plan. Governor Wes Moore is a strong supporter of Kirwan. Earlier this year, he cut funding to a scholarship program that provides low-income families opportunities to send their children to private school instead of struggling schools. He defended that decision, saying public dollars should be going to public schools. So will more money make a difference? About 20% of Baltimore City Schools' $1.7 billion budget comes from the city. Mayor Brandon Scott has been a strong supporter of Dr. Santelises.
Dr. Santelises, we are all here today because we want to congratulate you.
Celebrating her leadership. In spite of massive scandals Project Baltimore has exposed, including our investigation in 2021 into grade changing and inflated enrollment at Augusta Fells. In light of the recent math scores, Project Baltimore sent this email to Mayor Scott and every member of City Council asking if they support Dr. Santelises and whether these results warrant a special hearing to question the school system. Not one elected official responded. Not one. But we did speak with City Councilman Robert Stokes at a recent City School Board meeting. We asked him who he holds accountable for 13 high schools with 0 students who tested proficient in math.
It's not just the school system. We got to find a way of having parents involved in it.
Stokes said he favors adjusting the math curriculum to make it more understandable to parents and students.
You know, a lot of times these math scores, the parents don't even understand. when they bring the homework home, math, the parents don't understand how to do the math.
As an elected official, Stokes wants to help strengthen parent-teachers associations, or PTAs. But after generations of poor student outcomes, some have argued for more drastic solutions, including state intervention. While the state and city gave Baltimore City schools most of its funding, the school system is overseen by the Maryland State Board of Education.
The achievement levels, particularly coming out of the pandemic statewide and in Baltimore, are unacceptable.
We recently asked the president and vice president of the state board what responsibility they have to improve the quality of education in Baltimore City.
We're deeply committed to seeing those numbers increase.
Traditionally, the board has maintained that it does not have the authority to directly intervene. But President Clarence Crawford told us within 30 to 60 days, the state will announce a new partnership with local school systems to improve student outcomes. Though he said right now, he cannot give specifics.
Believe me, it's not lost on us. It is not lost on us. And we know we're going to have to do some things differently.
As Project Baltimore continues to hold these public officials accountable, we want to hear from you. What do you think needs to happen to improve student outcomes in Baltimore City schools? Head to our website, foxbaltimore.com, click on this story, and share your thoughts. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
And guess what? Made it up to 85 degrees today, a full 11 degrees above average. And guess what? Tomorrow, more of the same. So that means you got to get out those short sleeves and also those sunglasses. Make sure the kids are dressed appropriately, as they're going to probably be having an outdoor recess tomorrow. I'm going to let you know how long we're going to hang on to the unseasonable warmth and when we're going to get a big reality check. Temperatures only in the 60s, lows in the 40s. That's all in my Weather Authority forecast.
And a live look at Camden Yards on this beautiful night. In less than a week, that stadium, it'll be packed for the O's first home playoff game in 9 years. A look at who the O's might face in the division series right after the break.
The road to postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
It's a wrap on the Orioles' 2023 regular season with 101 wins, the first O's team to 100 since 1980. American League East champions, the first in 9 years, and heading to October baseball for the first time since 2016. Those Birds, though, not done yet. This week, though, it's a waiting game. The Orioles are completely off today, and then they get back to the field for workouts only starting tomorrow, all while waiting to see who their ALDS opponent will be come this weekend at Camden Yards. The O's get the winner of the American League wildcard matchup between the Rangers and Rays. The postseason is set. The Orioles, though, have to wait through that wild card to know their opponent and travel plans. The ALDS gets underway at Camden Yards this weekend. The Orioles will host the winner of the Rays-Rangers wild card Saturday, Sunday. The Orioles then will hit the road for either Texas or Tampa Bay on October 10th, 11th. Back home, if necessary, Game 5, October 13th. Either way, they will be ready and waiting.
As a players, that's what we're looking for when we go to spring training. And we got this opportunity this year. And we're excited. We're excited to go there and compete.
I think for us, we've had a really good mindset and process all year, and we're just going to try and stick to that to the best of our ability, continue to compartmentalize and, not look at the overarching picture, more so look at the day by day and kind of just winning each inning, each pitch.
The Rays and Rangers wild card gets underway tomorrow, a best-of-3 series. The O's went 8-5 against Tampa Bay this season, 3-3 against Texas.
Ryan Ripken and Rocco DeSangro discuss the O's postseason outlook on today's episode of Rip and Rock. New episodes drop every Monday. You can stream them anywhere you get your podcasts. And Fox 45 is your home for the 2023 World Series. The action starts Friday, October 27th. You can watch every game right here on Fox 45. And still ahead, a salute to Mr. Oriole, how Brooks Robinson's former teammates and fans are remembering the Hall of Famer and his lasting impact on our region. And more tension within the Harford County government. Councilman Aaron Penman's new accusations claiming Casserly is using taxpayer dollars for the wrong reasons. We are following two big stories out of Harford County. Continued fallout between County Executive Bob Casserly and Councilman Aaron Penman. The latest controversy centering around funding for Casserly's legal fight. And term limits up for discussion at tonight's council meeting as members are split about whether to move forward with that plan. Tonight, we have team coverage of the new developments in Harford County. We begin with Rebecca Pryor and the public comment hearing for term limits in Harford County. Rebecca, this meeting going very long tonight. What are we hearing from council members?
Yes, it was a marathon meeting tonight, and as council members, they're battling it out. They can't decide over how long these term limits should be, but it was really the public that they were looking to hear from, and that's why they had the hearing, to get their feedback. Next November, 2 term limit proposals could appear on Harford County ballots, one capping county council members from serving more than 12 years in office. The other, no more than 8 years consecutively.
8 years is definitely not enough.
Overwhelmingly, people want 2 terms.
Councilman Aaron Penman spearheading a petition drive to gather the 10,000 signatures needed to put the 8-year option on the ballot.
If that's the standard for the county executive, it should be the same standard for the county council.
Meanwhile, up for discussion at tonight's public hearing, competing legislation signed by several other council members, allowing for 3 consecutive 4-year terms. All they need is a majority vote from the council to take their option to voters.
If you go with that 3 terms, you then become vested at 10 years. And if you enter the state pension system, now you're receiving 1.5% per year for every year you serve.
Penman says the timing of 3 terms, matching the time it takes to qualify for a pension, seems self-serving.
Look, I'm here for a calling, not a career. You should not get any compensation for serving in a civil duty.
However, according to Councilman Tony Giangiordano,
none of us are in that pension.
The county's pension plan is optional, and currently no one serving has opted in.
There's no vesting, there's no pension. That's just his ruse.
Giorgiano also arguing elections already serve as a form of term limits.
People vote people in, people vote people out.
Either way, should both proposals end up on the ballot, ultimately it's voters who will have the final say. Now, again, tonight's meeting did run long, so the public comment section did just occur moments ago. 2 people spoke out in favor of the 8-year term limits. They were saying that it allows for new representatives to usher in fresh new ideas, while 2 others spoke out against term limits altogether, saying that they felt like they were unnecessary and also that it prevents good people from continuing to serve their community.
And Rebecca, this 4-hour-long hearing just now coming to a close. Explain the other 2 big issues on the agenda that caused tonight's meeting to go on for so long.
Yeah, Mary, before we could even get to term limits, there were 2 other hot topics that people were there for. Council chambers, they were jam-packed with residents from rural areas fighting back against plans for 2 controversial development projects. Take a look at the crowd this evening. You can see they formed a sea of orange and blue. Those in orange, they represent the Falston community. They're opposing plans for 2 4-story apartment buildings. Some of their main concerns include increased traffic and overdevelopment. The same concerns are echoed by those in blue. They're from the Perryman Peninsula, and they're opposing plans to convert hundreds of acres of farmland into warehouses. They argue the warehouses will be bad for those wanting to live in a rural community and bad for the environment. Take a listen to this quick clip from the hours of public comment we heard this evening.
Is there no one to stand up for every tree in Abington Woods?
I just don't understand something so large, why we haven't been brought together to kind of collaborate on this.
Stop prioritizing the rights of large developers and select landowners over the rights of the rest of the county's citizens.
Now, I also spoke with Councilman Penman about this issue tonight. He represents the district where those apartments would be put in place. He says that he is currently working with the developer to help come to a compromise that he's hoping that the community will be in support of.
That 100 planned apartment development now is at 48. And all of them are going to be senior living, 55 and above. So that really kind of reduces, one, a lot of the traffic impact that, community members kind of see and don't like, as well as the capacity issues at the schools.
And as for the warehouses, that discussion will continue tomorrow during another Harford County Council meeting. This one scheduled to start at 7:30. Reporting live in Harford County, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
A lot of issues in Harford County, including term limits. In Baltimore City, a similar term limit bill passed with 72% of the vote last November. It limits the mayor, comptroller, city council president, and council members to 2 terms within a 12-year period. Despite the overwhelming support, Councilman Ryan Dorsey introduced a plan that would put the issue back on the ballot in 2024. Now, term limits not the only contentious debate in Harford County. There's more back and forth between Councilman Aaron Penman, who we heard from tonight, and County Executive Bob Casserly. Maxine Stryker has the story.
For more than 2 months now, Harford County Executive Bob Casserly has been publicly sparring with County Councilman Aaron Penman after Penman accused Casserly of spying on his emails and phone calls following allegations that the Casserly administration misused $7 million in county funds. Casserly has defended his actions, telling FOX45 some emails were reviewed as part of an internal investigation, and what he did was legal.
No wiretap took place, no attempted wiretap took place. This was a one-time find out what's in the emails with regard to this alleged theft of $7 million. A one-time snapshot, you look and you're done. One person looked at that and reviewed that. I was not part of that. Didn't have any part of the emails.
An investigation into Penman's allegations of illegal wiretap violations was referred to the office of the Maryland State Prosecutor, who does not confirm the existence of any investigations. But Penman claims a leaked grand jury subpoena indicates investigative movement behind the scenes. Now Penman says the county executive's office is set to appear before the county council Tuesday, seeking taxpayer funds to hire outside attorneys for his team's criminal defense preparation.
So I don't know why any attorney would be needed for someone to go in there and just say, look, just tell the truth, what occurred, and then the case and the investigators will take it from there.
In an email obtained by FOX45 from the Harford County attorney to the council, he points to a request to retain outside legal counsel, saying the amount is not expected to exceed $15,000. He says he's under court orders not to discuss publicly the subject of the request, but could discuss prior to tomorrow's council meeting.
It's immoral, really.
In a statement from Casserly's office, they say the county executive is not seeking funds for himself. This is to cover county employees who were doing their jobs and who also did nothing wrong. County employees in this situation should not have to pay out of pocket to defend themselves against a headline-seeking politician with a vendetta. Taxpayers shouldn't have to pay either, but this is what Councilman Penman's actions have brought upon the residents of Harford County. Meanwhile, Casserly is calling on Penman to be removed from the council.
But every time I turn around, there's some sort of retaliation effort, and this is just the latest of them.
In a letter obtained by FOX45 from Casserly to the council president, he calls upon the council to remove Penman, saying he's breaking the requirements of the county charter since becoming re-employed with the Harford County Sheriff's Office, a job he had to leave when elected to the council, according to then rules in the county charter. Those rules have since been overturned by a Supreme Court ruling. Penman says he's not the one who should be stepping down.
It's government overreach, and just one more reason why the county executive and those involved in his administration should take a leave of absence until this investigation is complete.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Governor Wes Moore says tech CEO Pavel Lapierre was failed by Maryland's justice system after her murder last week. The governor is promising to work with lawmakers to address concerns surrounding repeat violent offenders like Jason Billingsley. Mackenzie Frost pressed the governor about his plan.
There was a bill introduced during last session and several years prior that would have targeted violent repeat offenders, and it never moved. Will that change during next session?
I want to make sure that in the next session, and our administration will be working closely with the administration to make sure that we have bills that will make it to my desk that can be pushed, moved, and that I can sign that can make sure we're getting repeat violent offenders off of our streets.
Are you demanding the Democrats do that?
I'm going to be working with our legislature to ensure that we can have legislation that will move, make it to my desk, and that I will sign to make sure we're getting and keeping violent offenders off of our streets.
Well, today, Fox 45 News sent some questions to the governor's office asking what specifics the administration is looking to introduce in January to reduce repeat violent offenders in communities. Is Governor Moore lining up sponsors for legislation to be introduced when session begins? Since making the comments on Thursday, has Governor Moore spoken with any members of the GOP conference who have said they will reintroduce their Repeat Violent Offenders Act? Will he support that legislation if it's introduced again? So far, we have not heard back. Now, the conversation surrounding repeat offenders, part of a storm brewing between lawmakers and the people on the front lines of the crime crisis. Fox 45 News has also been hearing concerns about juvenile crime laws in Maryland from parents to police to prosecutors. They are taking issue with the Juvenile Justice Act, which prevents children younger than 13 from being charged with most crimes, and the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Act, which states police cannot question young people without an attorney present.
You know, I've been out on patrol many a times, and I've gotten the same reaction from juveniles over and over again, which is, well, I'm a juvenile, you can't do anything.
A mistake was made. Go back immediately, look at the legislation, and let's correct it. We'll work